Bang ding ding, trademark. He come out 6'7" tall. Bang ding ding, one is star. Bang dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding. This is a perfect day.
Woke up to the sound of the garbage truck again. Upstairs neighbor's toilet's leaking on my head. And cars broke down, I missed the bus, there runs a 10. I had a feeling this was a day to stay in bed. I finally left my pad right on the jumbo's cloud roof. A police officer pulled out his gun and said, I said, so you got the wrong guy. I guess it's just the perfect day. It's just the perfect day. Na, 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 na.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Eggs. Today's special guest is Shane Foss. Shane has worked as an executive in the medical industry for more than 20 years, and in that time became frustrated with how underserved Americans were with current healthcare options. He set out to make a change, and in 2018 achieved this goal through launching Hooray Health, an unconventional health insurance company dedicated to providing affordable, basic, and urgent healthcare alternatives to high-deductible health plans. Through Hooray Health, Foss and his team focus on offering peace of mind to lower-income individuals and families who face medical challenges, while also providing business owners with an affordable way to reward and retain employees. Here to talk about the state of the healthcare industry, what Americans should be most worried about when it comes to healthcare, what employers and business owners need to know, and more. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Shane Foss, to the show. How are you, Shane?
Doing wonderful. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making the time for us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you. So I guess let's just kind of start at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about sort of just who you are. I think we covered some of the bases in the bio, but I mean, your history is much richer than that, actually. So if you don't mind going into a little bit of who you are and where you're from and what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in northern Minnesota, a really small town called Cloquet, Minnesota, and had 64 kids in my class. So
Oh, wow.
Very small. Yeah. Joined the military and kind of on a fluke. I joined the Air Force, and the recruiter asked me what I wanted to do, and I had no idea. And so we were talking. He said, man, I had a buddy that was a scrub tech in the military. And I was like, what do you do there? And he's like, you work with surgeons in the operating room. And I said, that sounds interesting. So I took a chance and, just fell in love with the operating room, fell in love with, healthcare. And so I was in San Antonio most of my time in the military and went to college. And while I was down there, met my wife, and, the rest is history. So I stayed in Texas most of my professional life, started with, Johnson & Johnson, then ended up with Stryker Orthopedics on the medical device side. So I still got, the business side of the business, or business side of healthcare, excuse me. And it was really, but I still got all the clinical benefits as well. So it was a lot of fun. And when I left there, I was working with a buddy of mine at a company that basically what we did was we created access for large self-funded employers for surgical bundles, access to surgical bundles at no cost for their employees. So if I had a $5,000 deductible, the employer would pay 100% of the cost if they would go to one of our facilities. And it was a great deal for everybody because in healthcare, there's no correlation between cost and quality. So we really bridged that gap, and we saved a lot of money. And, a lot of people put off surgery because they can't afford it. So we sold that company, and then I had the idea for Hooray, and here I am.
Awesome. So did you actually
that's
work,
awesome.
Did you work in the orthopedic field, or what was your relation to that? What did you just work for just the sales side, or did you work on the medical side?
Yeah, so I worked both actually. So while I was in the military, I assisted surgeons during surgery and a lot of orthopedics. So when I got out and I was working with Johnson & Johnson, and then and then Stryker, we'd still go into the operating room, but I'd be selling orthopedic implants to physicians. Then during surgery, I would help guide them kind of through the surgery. They'd ask questions on measurements and stuff for our products. But what's funny is, I love that aspect of the business. And my wife's an anesthesiologist. We've been going down to Guatemala now for 15 years with an orthopedic team. And so I still go down and scrub and assist her in surgery and absolutely love it. So do that for a week out of the year, which is a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's incredible. So can you talk a little bit about this transition in 2018 when you decided to sort of make the shift and you'd sort of become, I guess, disenfranchised with the American medical system?
Yeah,
it's a strange thing, or a difficult thing. I mean, it's such a complex issue. I run a marketing agency that does work for a lot of global and national healthcare providers, insurance companies largely, and I can't keep up. Like, stuff is so crazy.
Yeah, it's very challenging problem. When you look at the disparity, what's going on now is, you look 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you had about 165 million Americans that were covered under a major medical plan under their employer. Today, we actually have 164 million, a million less, 30 years later. And so there's this disparity, and there's a great article that was just out in the paper a couple of days ago that, we're now with this downturn, we've got 39% higher uninsured population than we've ever had. And there's a disparity because you have the hourly population, whether that's part-time or full-time, where they're either not offered health insurance or they just can't afford it. And, there's a lot of people that are functionally uninsured that have a $5,000 deductible, high-deductible health plan, and they just don't have $5,000 in their bank account. So there's an opportunity there. A lot of people don't want to work with this population because they don't think there's, enough maybe financial reward or stability in it. But I think that the opportunity is really larger than a lot of people think, because this population is, they're just like us. They have kids, they get sick, and they want to go to work. And so they need some type of healthcare. And so for us, we saw this huge opportunity to provide just kind of a really pragmatic approach to health insurance, in the sense that we're not major medical. We don't want to be major medical, and we don't compete against major medical. The funny thing is, everybody that comes to us, they don't have any health insurance. So for us, we just really take care of the basic sickness and accidents that happen on a daily basis, right? And so when you start looking at the statistics, that's where it really gets exciting to me. And that's where I was really frustrated, because health insurance, health care in general, we have data everywhere and we don't use it. And so when you look at CDC data, for instance, on utilization, why am I paying $500 a month for a health plan with $5,000 deductible with $15,000 out of pocket, when 65% of families don't even spend $1,500 of their annual deductible, right? Why am I, shouldering that burden? And there's a lot of, malincentives in the health insurance industry, or just health care industry. And so it's, we thought we'd do something about it, or at least take a little bite at it.
Yeah, so I'm actually that guy. I've been self-employed since '96, and I've had insurance maybe a year out of that time frame. And my whole health insurance policy is don't get hurt. And it's like going to the dentist is a huge thing, and all this other stuff, just because being self-employed, that's an expense that, it's hard to justify. Now I'm getting to that age where I kind of almost have to start justifying it, because body's not going to last forever. You need to stay on top of it. But I'm definitely that demographic, and I'm actually kind of interested in your program. Can you break down Hooray Health for us, what it does, how it works, and how someone like me can benefit from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really boil it down to the simplest care, which is retail, clinic, and urgent care. I built a national network of retail clinics and urgent cares, and it's a $25 copay with no balance bill. And we have, just under 4,000 locations in 46 states that we're contracted with. And we have a mobile app that centralizes all of our benefits to where you can easily find an urgent care retail clinic, or we also have a what we call a wrap network that gives you a discounted rate. And for their primary care physicians, it's a great rate. And then what happens is you go to the doctor, you provide your insurance card, and just like major medical, they bill our TPA, which is a third-party administrator. And then our third-party administrator takes the appropriate funds and pays the bill because we have contracted rates, and then you don't have to balance bill. It's a real simple model, but if you're in the healthcare space, you don't, a lot of times no, we only have to do it this way. Well, I didn't come from there. And so I kind of looked at it a little bit differently and said, ask the question, why can't we? And there's a lot of people out there that were thinking the same thing. And so we were able to do this, or, build this network. The other thing is we have $0 consult fee for telemedicine, unlimited utilization. We have mental health in there. We also have 24/7 medical concierge, paramedics and EMTs that'll triage you and send you the appropriate level of care. And so, our plan started at $80, and it's not going to take care of your pregnancy, your delivery, any major surgeries, but the majority of what happens with people is they go to their job and they get sent home because they're showing some type of flu symptom or something. They don't, and they don't want to go to the doctor because they don't know how much it's going to cost. And so this really breaks down that barrier for them, and it gives them a nice entry point into the system and makes the care accessible.
So is this specifically for urgent care? And if anything moves past that, then it's kind of on you? Yeah.
So we do have hospitalization, hospital indemnity coverage as well, but the reality is it's you can go to your primary care doctor with our plan. You can go to a specialist. You can go to those, but you're still at risk for that balance bill. But if you look at from a CDC data standpoint, if you look at under the age of 45, 75% of your healthcare is really going to a physician's office, right? Whether that's an urgent care, retail clinic, or primary care. Very low going to specialists or hospitalization. As a matter of fact, hospitalization is less than 5%. So what we're trying to do is just say, look, we want you to be able to go to the hospital. We want you to be able to get care, but the reality is, where's the bulk of your care? Where the bulk of your needs, right? And it's going to be at a physician's office or an urgent care retail clinic. And we really focus on retail clinics and urgent cares because if you look at the acuity that they cover, so first of all, their hours of operation are usually 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then they're 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, Sunday. No appointment needed. The acuity is really nice because you can get stitches there. You can have an IV put in. You can have asthma breathing treatment. You get a chest x-ray for pneumonia. All of those things you can get done at an urgent care facility, which is great, right? You don't have to call a PCP and say, hey, can I get in? And they say, yeah, it's 3 days later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder, so you mentioned that, fewer people are insured now than ever. Have you noticed this being a trend that's like super recent? Like, for example, during COVID, I just wonder if maybe health insurance is sort of seen as a luxury for some people, and maybe not even a luxury, but it's maybe the first to cut if they've lost a job or if they, are concerned about their sort of financial well-being. It seems like, it might be cutting off our nose to spite our face, but we may still like that. It seems like insurance might be one of those first things to go. So do you have any sort of leanings on A, if that's happening more than normal? And then B, is it really a price game for as people are dealing with healthcare? Is it really, is price what we're most focused on or most concerned on, in which case, low budget alternatives are really what we need, where most people are maybe losing insurance that's much higher rate. But like you mentioned, we're paying for insurance that's, maybe covering a lot of things we'll never need or won't need, at least until we're at a certain stage in life or have a certain level of health. So, I guess there's kind of a question in there.
Yeah, sure. So to answer one of your questions, obviously COVID is, we're at the highest point because of COVID. So that's, but if you look back, even over the last couple of years, it continues to go up. You look at Kaiser Permanente, they put a lot of really nice insurance data out, and it continually grows. And it's this gap. It's really a gap of haves and have-nots. And what happens is exactly what you said is, am I going to eat or pay rent, or am I going to pay for health insurance? And if you're, especially as the gig economy continues to grow, right? You can't justify a family to pay $30,000 just for premium. Then you have, a $5,000 deductible plus $15,000 out of pocket. I mean, you're paying $60,000 for what? It's crazy. And but if the great part about it is, with the free market system, capitalism at its finest, we have new opportunities. There's new alternatives coming out. Even, for us, we are an insurance product, right? We're a fixed indemnity and accident policy, but there's non-insurance solutions out there too, like Medishare, Sedera, that are faith-based. Some of them are faith-based. Sedera is not faith-based, but it's a much lower cost alternative to major medical. And but it's, look, we have Sedera, and we use Sedera and we pair it with Hooray Health, and I'll tell you what, it's fantastic. And I'm paying for my family, $500 a month. And when we looked at Blue Cross Blue Shield for our family, it was $3,100.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I, sort of like Mike, have been self-employed for a long time, and have always sort of worked, in and around sort of this gig economy. We've run our marketing agency for 20 years now, but it's always project in, project out, and sort of, we have the same issues with sort of self-employed stuff. And, there was a period of time, luckily I'm fortunate enough now, we get our insurance through my wife's employer, so I don't have to come up with that on my own. But there was a brief time and where I was stuck trying to pay for that myself. And, even as a 20-something guy, when I was doing that, I was clearly buying insurance that would cover all kinds of things. And like you're saying, just sort of law of averages or percentages, the odds of some of the things that we're covering, maybe at 26 years old, I don't really need cancer coverage, or I don't really need,
right.
Unless you're sort of, unless you're sickly to begin with, or you have conditions that you have to work with already, in which case you're already kind of a special case. But if you're just like an average person, you're clearly buying a lot of stuff you don't need, and man, they charge you for it.
Yeah. Well, if you, from a wealth management standpoint, even, right? You look at, they're scratching their head. How are we paying $3,000 a month for something, or $2,000, $2,500, and we're, all of that money could be going into savings right now, right? And you look at, yourself, Mike. The last 10 years, you're self-insured, or you're not insured, but you're self-insured. But if you would take that $3,000, put that away, that's $36,000 a year times 10. So you're at over $360,000 now, plus interest, right? That's wealth generation right there, and you're covered. And now you go in, you need surgery, you go in and you say, hey, I'm paying cash. And guess what? What we found out, at my last company was, I'm getting not only the best doctors in America at half of what would get billed to insurance company. I'm able to get an appointment right away because I'm paying cash, right? So, there's benefits. So it's just all how you look at it.
So when you've been doing this since before Obamacare took effect, and when that took effect, how did things change? And how, you look at big companies like Walmart. I've heard that they actually went through and they dropped full-time jobs down to part-time so they wouldn't have to cover the insurance because it was mandated. And then you look at like, what is it? I don't know much about the healthcare industry, to be honest with you, but I just, how did it change? What do you see the future of the healthcare industry doing? And is there any hope for us, or are we just screwed?
Yeah. Well, there's always hope. I mean, look, it's America. We've got a lot of smart people. I think entrepreneurism, capitalism is, where you want to be. We work in a third world country every year in Guatemala. We love it. We love the Guatemalans, but wow, that's disheartening. Yeah. But when you look at, so we did not start Hooray Health before Obamacare. We came after, but we obviously been in there, been around since Obamacare. With Obamacare, what changed was, with the mandate, now from a cost structure standpoint, it gave you a lot less flexibility. There were a lot more requirements around what you had to offer, what you couldn't offer. But, unfortunately with Obamacare, what had happened was they created this thing called the minimum essential coverage plan. And so if you were a full-time employee, no matter what, you had to have this insurance, right? Same thing, really from a part-time standpoint, you have to have insurance, right? Because of the individual mandate, or you're going to get penalized. So they created this minimum essential coverage plan, which covers all of your preventative. And it just, honestly, it's horrible. I mean, It just really doesn't cover anything. But yet we were forced, employers were forced to offer this. So, it's an additional unexpected cost. And so, Obamacare just did not really think through all of the issues, because when I look back at it, to me, the biggest mistake they made was not the individual mandate per se, but what they told insurance companies: you can't profit more than 15-20%. Well, the problem with that is, if you think about it as a business, well, okay, so I can't profit more than 15% or 20%. So that means that 80% of everything is has to be cost. Well, would you rather have 20% of $1 billion or 20% of 100 million? Right? It's going to be $1 billion. So what's happened? And look at what's happened over the last 10 years since Obamacare. The prices have skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. My dad's diabetic, and just if he loses he's on the verge of retirement right now, right?
Right.
If he loses his benefits when he retires, the cost of insulin, the cost of all the medicine that he's taking right now is going to bankrupt us. There's no way that he can keep going at the rate he's going without having the coverage. So he's like stuck in this kind of like, what do I do? Because he needs the medicine, but he also needs the benefits to be able to get it. And it's just, how do you deal with that? I mean,
it's he's going to have to look at, there's alternatives out there to where you can get your medicines from Guatemala or get them from Canada. And what's amazing is the insulin that he's got to pay, $350 a vial for, they can get for, $25 in Canada or Guatemala. And, it's really it's perverse incentives, right? That's what healthcare is really turned into. Hospitals have really, they're nonprofit, they don't pay taxes, but yet they're very profitable. Their prices have gone up dramatically. A lot of people villainize physicians, but I have a lot of good surgeons that are orthopedic surgeons, and they've been getting paid 5%, 10% more of Medicare for 20 years, right? From insurance companies. And now you're looking at hospitals are, where they used to get paid, let's say 10, 20% more than Medicare. Now they're getting 4 or 5 times what Medicare pays, right? And then the other thing is they send more people to collection than any other business in America. 66% of personal bankruptcies are related to medical bad debt. And it's so the reality is, something's going to happen, and it depends on, a bunch of factors. But if we go to a Medicare for all, which I don't think we're going to do, we're going to bankrupt the country. If they repeal some of this, with the Obamacare and the profitability, it aligns the insured with the insurance companies. Historically, insurance companies, they were in alignment with you because they wanted low prices as well, because that helped their margin. Well, now, if they're able to pay $50,000 for a total knee, well, they can make money. They got that margin at 20% that's fixed. Now, they're able to make more money if they let the hospital charge $50,000, as opposed to historically where it would be 20. So it's just, there's a lot of really, really good companies that are coming up that are trying to do it different. And, I think that, in my opinion, you're going to start seeing a lot of people going to a cash market, and that's what's going to happen. There's just going to be a cash market, and that's what's going to happen. You're going to see guys like you that are going to go in and they're going to shop around and say, hey, here's his quality rating. Here's how many total knees he's doing a year, and he charges, X amount for it.
Yeah.
You're going to shop around.
I just had a friend go through, she had a tumor in her face, and luckily it wasn't cancerous, but she was able to, she went through and it ended up costing like $30,000 just to have the tumor removed. And that doesn't include the hospital stay. So she's probably going to get more bills out of that. And coming out of college. So now she's got all her college bills, now she's got 50,000 or more in medical bills on top of that. It's like, what are you looking forward to? Just a lifetime of debt, and it's really sad that that's the state of our economy right now, where if you get a tumor, you break a leg, you break an arm, you have no alternative. You just, let's file bankruptcy and start over. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sorry to be, like Debbie Downer here, but that's kind of the state of the insurance field for me right now, because it's just it doesn't seem good.
Yeah. Well, it's just the free market is what really balances everything out, and we've got to get government out of it. First and foremost, you got to get hospitals paying taxes. Yeah. I mean, right now you've got, certain organizations I know that are profiting, $300, $400, $500 million a year, and they're not paying any taxes. And, they're hiding under this umbrella of, being a nonprofit, but they're a for-profit that's taking full advantage of it. We've got to repeal Obamacare. We've got, there has to be, there has to really, from a standpoint of healthcare in general, there has to be, we already have a standard payment system, which is Medicare, right? So if you say, I'm going to pay you 100% of Medicare, that means exactly what Medicare would pay. And everybody has that in their software platform, right? So if I know that I'm billing you from Medicare, I know, what the CPT code, how to bill it, and what it's going to cost, what I'm going to get paid. And actually, Medicare pays really quickly. Actually, they don't delay payment; they're very quick. So there has to start. We need to start with some transparency and accountability, and to where insurance companies are, they're free. They can make as much money as what they want, but the reality is, we need to get them in alignment with us again, to where they're coming in and paying 100, maybe 120% of Medicare, right? And in that way, the cost structure goes down again, and we're in a much better place where our dollar goes. I mean, because I remember when I started with Stryker, I had a $500 deductible, right? $500. I mean, that's all I paid for when we had our first child, right? So, or our second child, excuse me. So, right now, $5,000 deductible is common. And we just got a quote from Blue Cross for $500 an employee. And I've got a bunch of 26-year-old employees over here that I'm going to pay $500 a month for. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're just pricing ourselves out of the market.
Well, Ryan, didn't you had to refinance your house to have your first kid? I mean,
no, it's funny because I mean, it's been 13 years ago now, but yeah, our oldest son, he was 6 weeks premature. So he went into the NICU for 3 weeks. Yeah. And we got a fat bill for $280,000. Thank goodness we at least had insurance, which covered all but about 10% of it. So we were on the hook for $28,000 at 24 years old. And basically the only way we could get it, and maybe this is bad financial advice on behalf of the person who gave it, but they basically had told us, hey, if you can get this paid for in this tax year, then you're going to be a lot better off. And so we ended up having to take like the worst loan we could get, some kind of horrible balloon payment, like awful thing to cover it. And so we did, and we got it covered. And it's funny because we just sold that house. We moved some years ago, but we finally sold that house. And when we cashed it out, that second mortgage was paid and everything. So we finally at 12 years old owned our son outright. Yeah. So it was, but I mean, and I know people have it a lot worse off than we did. I mean, at least we had some coverage, I mean, there are a lot of people who would have been stuck with that whole bill. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. Well, hey, let's see if we can maybe kind of turn the tenor of this conversation around. I mean, we spent a lot of time sort of talking about the negatives, and obviously there are plenty, but you did mention earlier that there's hope out there. And so I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that hope. And maybe we start first by recognizing some of, what's going on like for employers. Like, so we mentioned earlier that COVID is, negatively affecting some people. A lot of people are out of work now, and sort of insurance has always been tied to their, or for many of them anyway, insurance has been a benefit of the work they're doing. So we're discussing how costs have gone up and things like that. But how are employers able to stay competitive now and still do, offer healthcare coverage as a benefit of coming to work, for the people who are still working?
Yeah. So, the majority, all your large employers are going to be self-funded, right? They self-insure, and, a lot of them are very sophisticated and they do a great job. But employers in general, health insurance is really a basic staple from a recruiting standpoint, right? I know everybody we hire, the first thing they say, what does insurance look like? And so, there's a lot of good things going on. We use a medical cost share organization called Sedera. So we have $1,000 out of pocket, and then that's it, and it's covered, and we're paying, $500 for a family. It's really nice. And so, I think those are exciting. There's a lot of organizations out there now that are, pharmacy specialty groups that are working with these employers that are, a lot of these orphan drugs, if you would, where they're $20,000 a month, and but there are all these loopholes that to be an orphan drug, you have to make sure that you offer a free drug to X person if they qualify, and so many, and there's a bunch of these loopholes, and these companies, that's what they do. They find those loopholes and then get them free drugs and make sure that they get them. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the markets right now. And there's a lot of consolidation in the brokerages. So, you've got these, the Gallaghers, the Willis Towers Watsons, the Holmes Murphys, the Hubs that are because they're consolidating, they have a lot more bandwidth, and how they're attacking the problems is a lot more aggressive. They're using a lot of analytics now. There's a lot of there's companies like Compass out there that where they're coordination companies that you can call, your employees can call, and they'll take care of really everything from start to finish with you, because that's part of the challenge with healthcare is, finding out where to go and, what to do and getting the right advice. So, and there's a lot of transparency companies out there right now. So, there are a lot of positives. But I think it'll be interesting with this election to kind of see what happens, because you look at Trump with a lot of conservative judges going in place right now across the country, kind of covertly, which helps out. But then you look at if Biden comes in, is he one of the things that was on the DNC the other night that was they said look, healthcare for all, right? And is he going to be able to get something like that done? I don't know. Our taxes will have to be 50% though. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's great to offer free healthcare or free whatever, right? Free college, free anything.
Nothing's free.
But somebody's paying for it. It's not always
Nothing
free.
Is free.
Yeah. Well, and that's the argument, I always hear people talking about, like socialized systems. We do a lot of work in Spain, for example, and they have sort of a social medicine plan there where everybody gets their coverage, and it feels kind of utopian, right? Until they need something serious, or until they need the right specialist, or they need, or whatever. And even at that, I mean, even other just sort of, issues where they go and they sit in a waiting room for hours, or they, can't get in to see somebody or whatever, and generally speaking, it works pretty good. But then there's, when you really need it, sometimes it's not there for you. So I think it's maybe naive to think that there's sort of a one size fits all. This is perfect. Everyone, should be protected. But I mean, obviously, I think the closer we can get to that, or, the more we can chase some sort of utopian area where medical assistance doesn't bankrupt families anymore, I think the better off we'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, where I grew up in Cloquet, just north of us is Duluth, Minnesota. And one of their top industries was people coming down from Canada for cardiac surgeries, right? Stents, total knees, total hips, because, they had to get put on a wait list. And, when you're in Canada, it sounds great, but the reality is you have to wait to get in. And then when you get in, they may have run out of, their quota for the year. I mean, because a lot of surgeons would, leave mid-year to come down to the United States to operate because they hit their quota, right? So there's always a two-tier system. In England, it's the same thing. Good employers offer health insurance, so you don't have to go to the government plan. So, so you're right. There's always going to be there's always going to be something there. And in all honesty, if you go into an emergency room today, you're going to get care. In Guatemala, if I go into an emergency room, they can kick me out if I don't have money, right? So we do take care of our people to an extent. My wife, when she trained at University of Texas in Houston, and LBJ delivers more babies, I think, than any other facility in the United States. And it was all impoverished, and they would go there to have their babies, and the residents would take care of them, and the medical students, and it's a trade-off. It's a training facility. So where there's a will, there's a way. And but my biggest concern is how do we just get people to go in and see a doctor, get their annual wellness visit.
Well, I think
kids in for their immunizations.
I think that's where the government insurance should come in, is cover those basic needs, cover those basic doctor visits, cover those inexpensive costs, and then the major surgeries for the knees and the hips and that. Then we address that at a different thing. But you shouldn't have to even be scared to go in and see a doctor just to see how you're doing. I don't going in just to do a checkup. I don't want $1,000 bill just to see a doctor for 5 minutes to tell me I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, and the sad part about that, Mike, is that if you go in and you don't negotiate an upfront cost, then you can get $1,000 bill and you have no idea.
I've gotten it. I've done that,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the reason I don't go back is, it's
right.
like, I don't need that again,
Well, right. And so I'll give you, why I started Hooray was my back had gone out. We had just sold the other company, and I went into an urgent care, and my back had seized up. So I went in, and I had one of the major carriers at the time, and it was a $75 copay. And so I went in and I said, hey, $75 copay, but what's the bill going to be? I haven't hit my $5,000 deductible. She said, oh, it's $150 global fee. Well, they go in, they take an x-ray in my neck, they found a bone spur, and they thought that was irritating my nerve root, which is inflaming my whole back. So they gave me 2 injections, a muscle relaxer and an anti-inflammatory. Well, 3 weeks later, I get an $800 balance bill. So I call them up and I said, hey, what the heck's going on? And well, we've got carve-outs. That's what they call them. Well, so I negotiated down to less than $100, but here's my point. You have no idea what your bill is. Anywhere else, that's like you going into Walmart and buying a gallon of milk and saying, hey, here's the $5 for the milk. And then literally 3 weeks later, you get a $200 bill from Walmart saying, this is the remaining balance for that gallon of milk, right? It sounds ludicrous, right? But that's what happens in healthcare. And so, the other example is, so about 2 weeks later, my back was still horrible. I went into orthopedic surgeon, my buddy, and he said, hey, walk across the hall, schedule an MRI. So I go in, and I told the lady, I said, hey, how much is this going to cost with my insurance? She's like, oh, yeah, you haven't hit your deductible. It's going to be $4,500. I was like, hey, I'm going to just pay cash. She goes, oh, that's smart. $350. $350. No. It even gets better. Then she goes, are you available tonight at 6 p.m.? And I said, yeah. She goes, it's only $300 if you go tonight at 6 p.m.
See, that to me is just asinine. That just pisses me off more than anything.
Well,
it really does, because why would they bill that much to the insurance company in the first place?
Because it's a game. And do you remember one of the first things I told you was anything under $5,000, nobody cares about anymore, right?
Yeah.
From an insurance. See, so that's why I think that from a capitalism, free market, this is where there's a ton of opportunity to where if I'm an imaging center that has an MRI and a CT, and I can bill and fill that up for $300, for every hour I'm open, right? Then, and I've got the capacity, but then I've got the business following. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that $4,500 that I would have ended up paying, right? They would have probably had to write some of it off. I would have been, in the end, what are they really getting, right? And it's just such a convoluted mess that what I would rather say is, hey, look, guys, this is what it is. A doctor's visit is, $75. Here's the lab visit. I think, what I tell people when they don't have health insurance, like if you're self-employed, there's a couple opportunities. I think you go with Sedera to cover the big stuff, which is, medical cost share, or you go with Medishare. The second thing is, if you have one of those direct primary care groups in your area, you go work with one of them, right? Because now you're paying $75, $100 a month, but you've got full transparency. You can call them anytime. You get your annual wellness. If you're sick, you just call them and they'll either take care of you over the phone, or you can go into their office at no cost, right? Those are again, free market solutions that are happening today to where you don't need the major medical, right? And so to me, what I think is going to happen long term is you're going to start seeing catastrophic insurance. And what I mean by catastrophic is $10,000 plus, surgery only, crazy stuff, up to $1 million in coverage. You're gonna have it for 10, 15 years and never use it, and then you'll go use it one time. They'll pre-negotiate everything, and so it'll be a much lower costing bill for them. They'll be able to take care of their costs. But to me, that's kind of where we're going, because I think there's direct primary care in itself, as long as you can take care of the catastrophic stuff. I think covering cancer and stuff like that as we get older. I mean, direct primary care, I think, is definitely a great place to be.
Sure. So with the advance in technology like AI and stuff like that, where do you see the healthcare industry going with access to the data and access to, I've heard that even like now with the advance of like 5G and the low latency that's available with the internet and how things are going, that a surgeon can be in New York and be performing an operation in Seattle via webcam,
Right.
with the amount of low latency that's out there. Do you see like a huge pivot just because of tech?
Yeah. I think the reality is it's going to take forever. I think healthcare is very slow to adopt. And I'll give you a great example. AI. My wife's a physician and she's really smart. All of her friends are physicians. All of them are really smart. And they're really smart in this one little area, right? Yeah. AI, you have the computing power, and we have so much data on, different diseases and how they present, and how we have not aggregated that data yet, or even really begun to aggregate that data, or we haven't even begun to aggregate that data to where, we can put in symptoms, maybe take blood tests and really identify and confirm diagnosis is beyond me, right? I think eventually that's where we're going to end up, but technology is so slow from in healthcare to advance. You're right. I mean, I've been in with the robots, the robotic system, and if you have a great surgeon that is in New York doing, let's say prostate removal surgery, right? And this guy has no complications. He's able to, so there's limited complications. And you want him, and he doesn't have to travel to Texas to do it. I think it would be great. But here's the reality. It's going to stop him. He's going to have to be licensed in Texas, right? And that's how they're going to stop him.
The red
and
tape.
so, there's just, man, it's going to be hard. I think that where you're going to see the biggest opportunities is going to be the AI and the new lab technology that's coming out, new radiology technology that's coming out, to where you're able to detect, cancer a lot earlier. You're able to, whether it's in the blood or from a radiologic standpoint. I think those things are going to be, really leading the way. As much as I would love to say AI, I just on how the healthcare system is, it's, you go into a hospital, it's not really impressive.
Well, as we're starting to get to the end of the hour, can we let's switch the conversation back to a little bit about Hooray, what you guys are doing over there that's different, and then how people can sort of build that in, maybe as a stopgap until we get this whole system fixed. I mean, obviously there's a lot going wrong right now, and some of these solutions you offered, going direct to the doctors and things are obviously a great solution. But if we need something, maybe a little more stout, we do have to take care of a family or something like that. Like, how might we leverage a plan like Hooray to make sure that we're sort of protected and, in a good spot?
Yeah. So today, unfortunately, we can't sell to individuals based on, based on everything going on with the states politically right now. Unfortunately, so we're hoping to have an individual plan out here soon. But today, as an employer, we can work with an employer through their traditional broker, and they sponsor the plan, and then we'll enroll their employees, whether they're part-time, full-time, whomever, use this as a supplement even to their high deductible health plan.
So I have an LLC and I'm the only employee. Would that work?
Yeah. Unfortunately, no, because you need a minimum of 25, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. But nice try. We're there with you. We're there with you. It's funny, because health insurance is managed by the state at the state level. So every state has their own department of insurance. So, but we work with we work with large employers that offer our product to their part-time and hourly employees. And then what really happens with us is that we cut down a lot of noise. With our plan, there's not a lot of questions that go back to the employer, right? Because traditionally, with MECs and these other things that, whether they offered something or not, there were a lot of questions about, well, hey, how do I use this? How do I do this? And with us, we're incredibly simple. Our communication, they get one ID card. All they got to do is go see the doctor and we take care of it, right? That kind of stuff. So it makes complete sense. And then, of course, a mobile app, right? Imagine that, actually having a mobile app, we've been buying our coffee with mobile app now for the last, 10 years, it seems.
Yeah.
So, but, we're at hooray-healthcare.com, and, employers can look us up and reach out to us. And we're in the midst of the enrollment season now. It's just getting ready to start. So we got a lot of people coming on board this year. So it's very exciting for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And sorry, I, kind of derailed us a little bit there, but really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's such a complex thing. I do work for, one of the big national insurance agencies, largely on their Medicare work. And I mean, the intricacies are so huge that, I've got a mother who's aging into Medicare this year. And so she's like, well, can you help me? And I was like, no, I work on their stuff every day and I have no idea. So you're going to have to call a broker. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it is something else. So, but it is good to hear from people sort of on the inside, like yourself, just to sort of understand the state of things a little bit and see where we're at. Because I think, it's quick and easy for people to kind of point at it and just say, ooh, it's bad and anything else will be better. But, not necessarily anything else will be better. Like we've got to maybe fix some systemic problems.
Yeah, I agree. I think, life is all about incentives. And you just got to align everybody's incentives is what has to happen. And I think that there's a lot of really good people. There's a lot of really smart people in the industry. And, the bottom line is, it's we just need to ask and we'll get the care we need and we'll work it out in the end. I think we'll continue to keep pushing forward and doing, fighting the good fight. And that's all we can do, right? Control what we can control.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and I guess that's the good thing about the, sort of our capitalist system here is that, it does provide opportunity for groups like yours and others who are trying to sort of fight the fight or change things or, maybe innovate or do things from a new perspective. And, so I guess we can be grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool, Shane. Thanks again. Yeah. Well, cool. One more time, where can people find you online? All that good stuff?
Sure. hooray-healthcare.com, and love to hear from anybody and everybody.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, Shane. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks to everybody who tunes in this week and every week, and we'll see you guys next time.